Hi, and welcome to another Witchdoctors how-to video. Today we're going to show you something a little bit different. It's a little bit more involved of a job, but again, it's not that hard. We're going to show you how to change the fuel pump on a Victory. The years that this basically covers, for the most part, is like 04, 5, 6, 7 bikes. So obviously the first thing you got to do is get the gas tank off. So what we have here is the fuel tank upside down. You see you have this big plug right here, and the wire, this is the wire for the fuel pump itself. The line, here's a vent fitting. So what you want to do, a lot of people think the fuel pump's actually right here. It isn't. The fuel pump's over here. This is just an access plug. So you have to pull that plug out, and then you can get the fuel pump out through that hole. So the first thing you want to do, you need a screwdriver, and a crescent wrench basically. And the other thing I made up is this plug is in there really tight. So what you have to do, you have to pull that plug out. A couple different ways you can do it. The one way I did it here is I just took a ring. It's a 6-inch piece of PVC. Cut it about 2 inches. You can do it an inch, whatever. And I just had an old piece of plate here, drilled a hole in it, and we're going to put it on there like that and use it as a puller to pull that plug out. Kind of a homemade deal. The other thing you can use is if you have like a dent pull or a slide hammer, you can screw it right in this hole right here and pull it out. So the first thing you want to do is this big snap ring right here. It's pretty easy. Just pry it over and pop that snap ring right out. It'll come right out. Now you want to put this ring there. I just got a bolt. I got a nut to act as a spacer, so you don't need the nut. It just kind of depends on what you got. You got to get the bolt in there. You just want to screw that down. Now that plug in there has a couple O-rings on it, so it's going to pull out hard. Some of them I've done come right out, and some of them are really, really hard to do. So I'll try to show you, zoom in a little bit here and show you basically what we're doing there. But you just want to tighten this bolt up, and it'll start pulling that plug out. I don't know if you can see it, but it'll just start to pull that plug out. And when you run out of thread, you can't screw it down anymore. That's where you may need to add a couple washers under here just to get it so it'll keep pulling. So you basically have to know how to use a puller to get this to work when you're doing it this way, because like I said, it's kind of homemade, but it works. Again, hopefully you can see that plug coming up. Kind of pull it and it'll pop right out. And again, you want to make sure you dump out as much gas or run the bike down if you can. Run the bike down as low as you can. So take that off, and then this plug just kind of jiggles out. It comes right out. It's got O-rings on it. Try to show you, there's one here. It's got a big O-rings on it. There's actually 2 of these. I pulled the other one off. But there's 2 of those, and you really should replace these when you put everything back together. But that's the plug from the other side, and just pull it out and it pops out. Now you'll notice there's a notch right here. When you put it back together, you got to make sure you line that notch up in the same spot. So that's basically to get that, to pull that plug out. So you can see down in there the gas. So what you want to do next, and I just use a crescent wrench, it's just easier. And again, be really careful because you got open gas. If you get sparks or anything, you know, big time problems. Unscrew that nut. And unscrew this fitting back here. Now you can take this nut, it'll just come off of the wire. You gotta be careful. Dropped it in the gas tank, but we'll get it out. But that's basically that. Now you can, these fittings here have O-rings, you know, rubber washer grommets around these here. So you want to be careful, and we'll try to zoom in here for you so you can see what we're doing. But they have grommets on there so that it doesn't leak, obviously. So you want to be kind of careful when you're taking that stuff apart. You don't want to tear those. And I just kind of push that down. This one's a little bit harder. It's got a washer and stuff on it. Take that washer off. This comes off. And then another, like a rubber sealing washer. And I just kind of get underneath it a little bit and just kind of work it. Pry it up. You can see that washer, it's got like a rubber gasket on it, so you don't want to screw that stuff up. And then you're just going to kind of push that down through. Another little gasket there. You just want to kind of push that down through. Reach inside the tank here. Zoom back out for you so you can see inside the tank there. Hard to run the camera when I got gas in my hands. I'll zoom in there a little bit. But what you want to do, I'm going to reach inside here, just kind of pull it out. At the same time, make sure you fish that wire down through there. And this is a little bit of a pain. Just kind of start pulling the pieces out. This is just a pre-filter. And again, this stuff's kind of brittle because it's old. And you gotta it's one of those deals, just kind of twist it and hold your mouth the right way and it'll eventually come out. There's the wire. This one is absolutely fighting me. Here's the nut we dropped earlier. You just have to be really careful to not break that, the fuel lines. One of the reasons I can tell you right now, they normally don't come out this hard. It's because this gas tank has been wrecked. That's why we're actually taking this fuel pump out. But it's been wrecked, so I'll flip it over later, but I'll show you it's dented on the other side really bad. So normally they don't come out this hard. It's just tank is smashed down. So it's extra hard. There's not a lot of room here. There we go. And just kind of drain some of that gas off. Make sure you have a pan or something to set this in. But this is actually the fuel pump unit itself. These are just pre-filters that kind of filter the gas before it goes into the pump, so if you have any junk in your tank. But for the most part, that's what we're changing right there. This is the fitting in the back. This is obviously the wire fitting. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this in. We're going to put this fuel pump into another brand new tank. Like I said, this one is really dented. I don't know if I can show you without losing the leaking gas here, but yeah, I can't really show you, but the whole side under here, if you can see that right here, has got a big dent in it. So normally your fuel pump would not come out that hard. It comes out a little bit easier, but this one is just the tank's so smashed in. So that's the first step to getting the fuel pump out. So we'll come back in a second and I'll show you how to put it back in. Okay, so we got the new gas tank here. Now, the one thing I forgot to say in the beginning was make sure you get this on something, you know, a table up high enough where you can work on it. And I put a sheet underneath it, but you might get some towels or something and put underneath so you don't scratch your tank up, because that's real important. You don't want to forget to do that and then flip the tank over and see it's got all the scratches on it. The one thing, when you go to put this back together, you want to just make sure this, the little rubber washer on both of those spots, the little sealing gasket, is in good shape. If they're torn or anything, you're going to have to replace those. You know, so again, make sure both of those are okay. So the first thing you're going to do is just stick it back in. You're going to just kind of fish the filters back kind of in the way it came out, and you want to kind of get the fuel pump going in this direction so that when it goes in there you don't have to twist it all around. You know it's got to fit in there just like that. So you want to kind of get stuff going where it needs to be. And it's the same sort of deal. You just got to fish the stuff in there, and like I say, it's not hard. Just you got to have some patience. And take your time and slowly. You have to work one of the gas lines in, work it a little bit, and work the other one, and just keep kind of going. Did I mention patience? Slowly going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut the camera off so I don't run out of film trying to do this and you don't hear me swearing. But I'll turn it back on in a second once I get this to kind of drop in. It's actually going right now, so maybe we won't have to do that. It's almost there. There we go, it's kind of going. Now, the hard thing, you got to reach way in there. And this is if you got small hands, really helps. But you got reach way in there and get this wire to kind of pop, to get this wire to pop back up through that hole. There you go. Kind of use that wire to pull it up and hold it in place, and reach in and kind of spin the pump. Try this way. We got to get that other fitting up through there. It's like almost there. I just can't get my hand in there. There we go. You see that? It just popped up through. Make sure those socks, those screens aren't jammed in there either. Try to feel the hose and make sure it's not kinked. So what we want to do is we want to put that gasket back on. You put that on there and it'll help hold it too. Just work it down. Like I say, be very patient because you tear that gasket. Everything you just worked for, you're done. That washer on, and then you can screw the fitting on. One thing to show you too, on the bottom of that fitting, see if I can show you this here. On the bottom of this fitting, there's an O-ring. Make sure that O-ring is in good shape, because if not, you're going to have a leak. So if you just get that fitting kind of started finger tight, it'll hold the pump so it doesn't drop down in there and you can keep working on it. So this one you're going to slide your gasket down. And they fit pretty tight. Obviously they got to be leak proof, so and then that sealing washer, and that one is going to go on real tight. You might take a screwdriver and push on the metal part and just kind of work it down. Don't use the point of the screwdriver, just kind of push it down. And then your little washer, and then the nut. And you just want to kind of get that so it's in the center. Snug those up. You don't want to go overboard, twist the thing off, but just, you know, snug it up. You'll feel it when it's getting tight. Okay, so that's it. The fuel pump's in. If you reach in, you should be able to feel those socks, and they should be just kind of floating around in there. You don't want to have the lines kinked off or anything like that. You can feel the line, and you don't want to have a kink in it. So that's basically that part. Now we're going to put this, we're going to put the plug back in. Now, like I said before, there's a notch right here. See the notch on the plug? That lines up in the notch there. So we're going to put on our new O-rings. We sell these on the website. They're not very much money. I think they're 10 bucks each or something like that. And they just go right in the groove. You'll see on here there's 2 grooves. They just go right in the groove. Now the one thing I do is I put a little bit of Vaseline on them so it goes down in. You don't need a ton. Just take a little smear of it and kind of put it on there. Because the one thing you don't want to do is when you go to put this in, if you put it in crooked or you try to force it and you break those O-rings, which you can do, you got a mess. Then you got to tear it apart and order new O-rings. Most dealers don't stock those O-rings. That's why we do, because guys break them all the time, tear them. So we like to have them in stock for you guys. So now you're just going to take that. I got it all lubed up. Just going to take that, set it in, get the notch lined up. Now you just kind of work it, just kind of slowly with your hands. You'll feel the O-rings go in, and you want to kind of do it. Let me actually put a little bit in here because this is a brand new tank we just custom painted for a customer. So let me get that a little bit there too. And you'll feel them going in. I like to take just the stick of a hammer and kind of tap it in. And tap it in even. Don't whack the thing because you'll dent the top of your tank. So you can see it just kind of goes in like that. It's not down far enough because you have to go down far enough for that snap ring to go in there. So just keep tapping. You'll hear the sound change when it's in far enough. Once you get that in, just throw your snap ring back in and make sure that it's in all the way around. You can push it with a screwdriver and make sure you don't have it poking out anywhere. You can wipe everything off. And that's all there is to changing the fuel pump. One thing I'll show you here is these two little nipples here. If you saw the last tank we took out, we only had one. It's a little bit newer tank. But those are your vents and your overflow. So what I'll show you is on the top of the tank. If you can see this here. This one right here, that little hole, it's kind of, if you look at your tank, you'll see it's down in a little pocket right there. That's where, when you overflow the gas, that's where the gas comes out, and you'll see it dripping on like cross countries. It'll drip down by the battery. I think jackpots in Vegas and all that are the same. But you'll see gas maybe dripping every time you fill it up, or if the gas tank's really full and it's in the hot sun and it expands, you'll see some fumes or a little bit of drippage coming out. That's where it's coming out from. The gas overflows onto there, or it goes out the vent, and it goes down through those little nipples on the bottom of the tank, and it runs down through your lines and drips on the ground. So normally I tell people, don't fill it clear up to the rim here. You know, leave it down a hair so it has a little bit of room for expansion. So that's basically it. That's how you change the fuel pump. So thanks for watching.